So let us continue the discussion on rectifiers. Today I will discuss what is known as a ripple factor. The ripple factor is a qualifying analytical quantity which describes the quality of the DC output of a rectifier. In the last class we have seen that a rectifying waveform has a DC component in it and an alternating component in it. So this DC component is the wanted component and this is the unwanted ripple component. Now the ripple factor is something which determines how much is this ripple voltage. Obviously it has to be as a function of the wanted component. The unwanted component has to be a function of unwanted component because it should be an absolute term in normalized terms. Therefore it is normalized with respect to the DC. Hence the ripple factor definition is given in this fashion. It is the ripple voltage which is measured as the RMS voltage divided by the DC voltage. That means VR RMS by VDC, and if you express it in as a function as percentage, you multiply it by 100, then you will get the ripple, the percentage ripple, a ripple factor as in terms of percentage of the DC. Okay, so now let us analyze the ripple factor in terms of ripple factor for the half wave rectifier and full wave rectifier which we have discussed earlier. Please refer back to the analysis of the half wave rectifier. We have analyzed and found that the DC voltage is very closely equal to Vm by pi, or DC voltage is equal to Vm by pi, where Vm is the peak voltage of the rectified output. And we have determined the RMS voltage as Vm by 2. This RMS voltage is equal to the RMS voltage of this waveform, rectified waveform. It is not the RMS voltage of the ripple. It is the RMS voltage of the rectified waveform which is equal to sum of these two. Therefore it is RMS voltage of these two put together. So from this we have to compute the RMS voltage of the ripple itself or the AC component. Then we can find the ripple factor. Now it is known that, so in the case of a half wave rectifier, so VDC is equal to Vm by pi and VRMS, that means full rectified waveform's RMS voltage is Vm by 2. Now the RMS voltage of the ripple can be determined. So in this fashion, VR RMS, the ripple voltage's RMS value can be determined from this. So that can be determined as VRMS square minus VDC square. Okay. Therefore it is Vm square by 4 minus Vm square by pi square. So this is the RMS value of the AC component, and this is VR RMS square. Therefore VR RMS is square root of this. So this is the RMS value of the ripple voltage, and this can be determined, and this can be substituted and in the ripple factor expression over here, and we can show that. So this is equal to 121% ripple factor is, because the ripple's RMS voltage is larger than the DC voltage which you get here. Now let us find out the ripple factor of full wave rectified waveform. So, in the case of a full wave rectifier, so we know that the DC component is equal to 2 Vm by pi, and the Vrms, that means the RMS value of the full rectified waveform, which includes DC as well as the ripple itself, is so Vm by square root of 2. And in the same way as we did for the half wave rectifier, you can determine the ripple's RMS value. So, the ripple's RMS value is so square root of 4 Vm square by 2 minus 4 Vm square by pi square. So, this is the ripple's RMS value, and if you divide it by the DC value, which is equal to Vm by pi, so you get the ripple factor for a full wave rectified waveform as 48%, which is much higher than that of the half wave rectified waveform. By looking at the waveform itself, it is clear. Physically looking at the waveform itself, it is clear. Okay, analytically we have the analytical expression here. This is about the ripple factor. For most of the electronic circuits, so the ripple factor has to be very small, typically less than 1%. Then how to improve the ripple factor of the half wave and full wave rectified waveforms? So, naturally the ripple factor can be improved considerably by using a capacitive filter. So, let us consider a rectifier. So, with a capacitor. The full wave rectifier, so let us consider this full wave rectifier with 2 diodes. Here we have the load, and here we have the other rectifier. Now, across the load, if you connect a capacitor, so you will find that the ripple factor is considerably improved. The kind of waveform we get at the output of the load is like this. If this is the full wave rectified waveform, this is the full wave rectified waveform as a function of time, and this output voltage. So, what you get is this kind of waveform. If the load is a high load means the resistance is small, so that the load current is large. If the load is small, so you will find that the waveform is better. So, the waveform would be like this. The ripple is very small. So, DC value itself is almost equal to the peak value, and the ripple is very small. With increased load, of course, that is reduced load resistance RL, of course, the ripple increases like this, but still it is far better than that of a full wave rectifier. Now, let us look at how you get this kind of voltage waveform. So during the positive half cycle, the voltage across the secondary over here charges the capacitor along with increasing the load resistance through this diode. Therefore, it charges, the capacitor gets charged to the full voltage Vm. Well, with a lag corresponding to the resistance over here and Rc, the capacitor gets charged with a time constant which is equivalent to the series resistance over here, equivalent series resistance of this diode, and if the source has some resistance, that resistance added, and through that the capacitor gets charged. And this resistance being very small, the series resistance being very small, the capacitor gets charged almost instantaneously, so very fast. In practice, you will not find any difference over here. So the capacitor rises, the capacitor voltage rises with the output voltage, with the input voltage to the peak value. Now once the capacitor voltage is charged to the peak value, that is Vm, and the input starts falling, because of the sinusoidal voltage, and at this point itself this diode becomes reverse biased because its output point is already charged to plus Vm here, and the input is falling below Vm, just below Vm, and as a result this diode becomes reverse biased at this point. Just beyond the peak point the diode becomes reverse biased. Why? Because the output is already charged. So the capacitor is already charged to the voltage of Vm. Therefore, the diode becomes reverse biased at this point, and therefore it is like an open circuit. Well, the other diode is also like an open circuit because that is also reverse biased. Then this load is supplied by the current that is drawn from the capacitor. The capacitor is already charged, it transfers its charge or it dissipates its charge through the load resistance. Therefore, the voltage across the capacitor goes down exponentially with the time constant equal to RL into C. At this point, if I consider this point as t equal to 0, and initially the capacitor is charged to Vm, the expression for this waveform is Vm e to the power of minus t by RL into C. So this is known to you from the network theory. If the time constant, this capacitor which is initially charged to Vm is getting discharged through RL, therefore the voltage falls at the ratio of as this function Vm e to the power of minus t by RLC. So naturally by this time it will discharge by certain amount. It naturally depends on the time constant RLC and the time difference from this place to this place. If this time is t1, so this voltage at this point would be naturally Vm e to the power of minus t1 by RL into C. Now in the meantime, the input negative half cycle comes up into picture, and this side would be effective, and this diode will become conducting once the input voltage rises beyond this voltage. Once this side input voltage rises beyond, so this voltage, this diode becomes conducting, and it again recharges the capacitor in this fashion. And since the charging time constant is very low, again the capacitor voltage will rise to Vm. So up to this point, the capacitor charges up to this point and the voltage rises to Vm again. And during the next half cycle, so again it will discharge exponentially with a time constant equal to RLC. And naturally with RLC, a small RLC, this drop would be, a drop rate would be very low, and with large RLC, with large RLC the drop rate would be very low, whereas with small RLC the drop rate would be high. In any case, it is definitely better than that of a full wave rectified waveform. Hence, you will get improved output. Improved output in the sense with reduced ripple and increased DC voltage. Now let us analyze this circuit and see how much of DC potential are you getting and how much of AC component are you getting and what is the ripple factor, because we like to quantify everything and so that the circuits can be designed. Let us do some simplifications for analytical purposes. Okay. So that is by the assumption that RLC is much larger than the time period of the waveform. So time period of 50 hertz is equal to 40 milliseconds. I'm sorry, they are 20 milliseconds. Okay, if RLC is much larger than the time period of the input sine wave, so you can approximate the charging and discharging voltage as a triangular waveform. This can be approximated by a triangular waveform with the peak equal to Vm. Now, if the peak to peak value of this triangular waveform is delta, naturally VDC is Vm minus delta by 2. If it is a triangular waveform, the average value of this waveform would fall in between these two values, in between these two peaks. Therefore, it is delta by 2 below Vm, hence VDC is equal to Vm minus delta by 2. And similarly, RMS value also can be, RMS value of the ripple also can be determined as the mean square value of this triangular waveform, or root mean square value of this triangular waveform. Now let us find out the delta. I repeat, delta is the peak to peak value of the charging and discharging waveform, or the voltage across the load. So let us now determine delta. So to determine delta, let us assume that the discharging time is approximately T by 2. In fact, it is less than T by 2. So let us approximate it to T by 2. So this is one assumption, and the other assumption is that the waveform is the approximation is that the waveform is a triangular waveform, which can be made with this assumption, RLC much larger than T. So with this, we can show that the delta is equal to IDC into T by 2 by C. So assuming that the capacitor is being charged with a constant current which is equal to IDC, okay, the amount by which the charge it loses within time t by 2 by way of discharging through RL is IDC into t by 2. Current into time gives you the charge. So IDC into t by 2 is the charge that goes out of the capacitor to the resistor. And once you divide it by C, you will get the voltage drop across the capacitor. Therefore, delta can be obtained as IDC into t by 2 divided by C. And IDC is the average current, okay, so which is equal to, so VDC by, what is the current that is being supplied by the capacitor? That is the load current itself. So if the voltage is DC voltage is VDC, so VDC by RL is the average DC current passing through the load. Therefore, this is VDC into T by 2 RL into C. Now substituting this over here, we can determine VDC as Vm minus as this value, VDC is equal to Vm minus VDC into T by 4 RLC. So from this we can get an expression for VDC. I am not carrying out the analysis over here, but it can be shown that the ripple's RMS voltage is equal to 2.4 VDC by RL into C. The ripple factor from this, the ripple factor can be obtained as roughly 2.4 by RL into C into 100%. By dividing the RMS value of the ripple by the DC value, it can be shown that the ripple factor is 2.4 by RL into C into 100%. How to determine the RMS value of the ripple? So you can determine it by finding the mean square value of the triangular waveform within one period and finding the square root of that. So and by dividing it with the DC value, you will get the ripple factor. So this is the ripple factor. So it depends on RL into C, and if RL into C is equal to 1 second, then you will find that the ripple factor is about if RL into C is say 2.4, there is a mistake over here, 2.4 by RL into C into 100%, and if RL into C is about 10 seconds, so you will find that the ripple factor is 24%. But please note that this expression is valid only for very large time constant RL into C. For small time constant, this expression is not valid. So only for RLCs, which is of the order of 10 seconds or 100 seconds, this can be used. Now let us also see how the waveform of the current passing through the diode looks like. By looking at current waveform through the diode. So, the diode waveform, the current waveform, the voltage waveform across the load is like this, and the diode 1 is conducting during this period, and both the diodes are off during this period, and diode D2 is conducting during this period, and both are off during this period, and again D1 is conducting, and so on. So, that means the diode conducts only during this period, this time period. And if you look at the current waveform across the diode, so you will find that the current waveform is like this. Suddenly it becomes conducting forward biased at this point, and current jumps, and it keeps charging. A huge amount of current flows through the diode to charge the capacitor, because the capacitor is very large, and as the capacitor gets charged, the current through the diode goes down, and it becomes 0 at this point, because the capacitor is already charged to Vm and the input voltage is Vm, therefore it becomes 0, and from this point onwards the diode current is 0. So, this is what is happening through D1, and this at this point the current through D2 also have this kind of shape. Hence, the current passing through the diode is of this time, is of peaky nature. So, when you design the circuit, you have to select a particular diode for the rectification application. While selecting the diode, you have to take care of this aspect. See, the diode should be able to sustain a peak current of this much. So, if you find out the average value, its average value may be something of this type. So, the diode must be able to withstand this kind of peak current and this kind of average current. Now, how do you determine this current? So, it falls outside your course, but let me give you an idea about how much it would be. So, please note that during the discharging period, the charge that is lost by the capacitor is of the order of IDC is equal to IDC into T by 2. Okay. The same amount of charge has to be acquired within this short time. Therefore, the current that is needed to charge the capacitor during this time period would be, how much would be that? That is IDC into this discharge time divided by this charging time, because IDC into the discharging time is equal to I charging into this charging time. Therefore, this current to the discharging current ratio would be equal to, so this time to this time ratio, which is very large, which is of the order of 100. Of course, it depends on RL into C. Okay. So, such considerations should be taken while designing circuits. Well, with this the ripple factor can be considerably improved, and if you want further improvement on the ripple factor, you have to go for a Zener diode across the capacitor. And before going into such Zener regulation circuits, so let us also look into what is meant by voltage regulation. So, there is another important quantity which describes the quality of a supply. Say you have a supply here, and the supply is a 12-volt supply. I am choosing 12 as an arbitrary number. Now, from this 12-volt supply, if you connect a load resistance of 12 ohms, so it draws 1 ampere current approximately from this 12-volt supply if it is an ideal supply. And if it is a 120 ohm resistance, it draws only 100 milliamperes. And if it is 1.2 K resistance, it draws only 10 milliamperes. So ideally or practically, we expect the supply voltage to remain constant irrespective of the amount of current you draw from it. Very often the load current varies. If you listen to a music system at low volume, the power draining from the supply is very low. On the other hand, if you drive the speakers with high power, it draws a huge amount of current from the mains, from the supply. So that means the load current varies from time to time in general, because the load resistance also varies effectively. It is desirable that irrespective of, in spite of the variation in the load, this supply voltage remain constant. But in practice, you find that the supply voltage falls to some extent with driving current, if this is with the load current. If the load current is IL and this voltage is the supply voltage and this is the load voltage, let us say that this is the load voltage VL. Actually the voltage you get here drops with increased load current. So it may drop from say 12 volts to about 11 volts if you draw 1 ampere current through it with a high load. That means low load resistance. With low load resistance there would be high loading, and because of high loading this voltage may drop like this. Okay. Ideally you want this to be flat. So this is another important characteristics of a supply. So we want it to be flat like this. How do you measure this with the voltage regulation? So voltage regulation can be measured like this: V no load minus V full load as a ratio of V full load. If you want, this is expressed as a percentage if you multiply it with 100. So one question may arise in your mind. So whether you take it as a ratio of V no load or V full load. Before that, let me explain what is meant by no load. So when you don't draw any current through it, that means when the output is open circuited, that means IL is 0, whatever is the voltage that appears across the terminals is V no load. If your full load is say 100 milliamperes, so at full load whatever is the voltage so that appears across this, that is V full load. So now this V no load minus V full load, that means this quantity, so divided by V full load is the percentage regulation. And we use this as a ratio of, we measure it as a ratio of this change in voltage as a ratio of the full load, because very often supplies are rated in terms of full load. Under full load of 100 milliamperes, the voltage is so much. Like a vehicle, a two-wheeler with 120 kilograms of load, it will give you 40 kilometers per liter under laboratory conditions or under road conditions. So with this kind of rating, it is given as a ratio of V full load. Any questions?
So why does this fall of voltage supply actually occur?
You tell me. It's because of many reasons. You have the internal resistance. The diode has the forward resistance RF. Okay, in a half wave rectifying diode, for instance, you have RL and the diode here. Okay, so diode is equivalent to its forward resistance in series with V gamma. So as you draw more current, the drop across this forward resistance or the drop across the diode increases. Okay, so because of this reason, output drops. So not only that, so this is also being supplied by another source. This source also has some series equivalent resistance there. As a result, you have, with increased load current, the drop across its own source resistance and the rectifier's own resistance comes into picture, and the output voltage drops. In fact, this expression can be given as V load is equal to V no load minus IL into some series resistance, which can be denoted as a source resistance, because that is the equivalent series resistance of the source that is being exhibited. This whole thing put together can be clubbed as having some series resistance, as a source resistance, which is in series with the load. So in which case VL equal to V no load minus IL into RS, because when IL is 0, VL is V no load, and with increased IL, the VL drops. This is VL, the VL drops by an amount IL RS. Okay, so in which case, this is the equation of this straight line, okay, which is VL as a function of IL. And what is the slope of this equation, of this curve? Slope of this is RS. If RS is 0, please note that voltage is on the y-axis and current is on the x-axis. Slope is voltage divided by current. Derivative of the voltage divided by derivative of the current. It has ohms as units. So RS is the slope. If the source resistance is 0, naturally slope is 0 and percentage regulation is 0. If the source resistance is large, then this drop is large and percentage regulation is large. Therefore, we want the percentage regulation to be as small as possible with power supplies. Any questions at this point?
The slope is minus RS.
Yes, you are right. The slope is minus RS. Thank you for pointing out, because it is a negative slope. Any question? Questions? Now, with ripple factor defined and voltage regulation defined, percentage voltage regulation defined, let us go for further improving the circuit, the rectifying circuit. Using Zener diodes, the percentage regulation as well as ripple can be improved. That means the ripple can be reduced and percentage regulation also can be reduced. So let us look at the circuit. So this is a full wave rectifier with only diodes, and we have, say, a capacitive filter and say this is our load resistance RL. Okay. Now, if you introduce a series resistance over here and connect a Zener diode, this is the symbol for the Zener diode. As I explained, the Zener diode is operated in the breakdown region, and there are two breakdowns possible in a diode: avalanche breakdown and Zener breakdown. When you use high concentration of charges or high concentration of doping, the Zener breakdown occurs in a diode, and such diodes are known as Zener diodes. The symbol for a Zener diode is like this. So this is the symbol. It is always operated in the reverse direction, so that the characteristics is something like this. When the voltage, the reverse voltage, increases beyond Vz, the Zener potential, the reverse current increases. Okay. So when this voltage across this Zener goes beyond Vz, the breakdown occurs and the current increases tremendously with a minor increase in the voltage beyond Vz. So it is always operated in the reverse direction in this fashion. When you do so, what happens is, if the current tries to increase in this fashion across the capacitor, as we have seen earlier, when the voltage is like this across the capacitor, so due to this changed voltage, the current tries to increase. Whenever the voltage increases, the current tries to current through the Zener tries to increase, and that additional current makes an additional voltage drop across the series resistance, and thereby whatever is the additional voltage, so that additional voltage can be seen to drop across this, and what remains is almost Vz volts here, assuming that both these voltage levels are above Vz. As an example, let us consider a 12 volts supply. And a 10 volts Zener. So let us say the voltage varies between 11 to 12, 11 volts to 12 volts, and say this is 100 ohms, and this is say 10 kilo ohms. For the time being, let me take a high load resistance. So when this is 12 volts, so this Zener allows any amount of current when the voltage is 10 itself. So what happens is, it maintains the voltage at 10 volts, and thereby this current as 1 milliampere, and whatever is the difference between 12 and 10, the 2 volts would be the drop across this, and to maintain that, the current that needs to flow through this is 2 volts by 100 ohms, 20 milliamperes. And out of this 20 milliamperes, only 1 milliampere goes through this and makes this voltage equal to 10 volts, and remaining 19 milliamperes goes through the Zener diode. So with 19 milliamperes or with 1 milliampere, you will find that the Zener voltage is almost 10 volts. It can absorb almost any amount of current with the voltage maintained at 10 volts. Therefore, it will allow, in this particular example, it will take 19 milliamperes of current, still maintain the voltage as 10 volts, and with this 10 volts, the current that goes through this is 1 milliampere, and these two put together 20 milliampere flow through this and maintaining a 2 volts drop here, and that satisfies the Kirchhoff's voltage law. So when the voltage here is 12 volts, this is the situation. It takes 19 milliamperes and keeps the output voltage at 10 volts. When it is at 11 volts, when the input is 11 volts, it maintains 10 volts, and this current is 1 milliampere, and you need a voltage drop of 1 volt here, therefore it would be 10 milliamperes now. And when 1 milliampere flows through this, 9 milliamperes flow through this, and with 9 milliamperes also the Zener potential is 10 volts. Okay, so the Zener maintains the same voltage for any current. So all that current that is needed to absorb the change in this voltage across the series resistance, so it absorbs all that current by maintaining the voltage constant. Hence, with this kind of changing voltage at the input, the output voltage would be almost constant in the case of a Zener diode. We will further discuss about it in the next class. If you have any questions on this, a couple of questions, I can entertain. Questions? Then we shall discuss about it further in the next class.